Okay, so this is the second half of the section 1.4, and now we're going to deal with the least common denominator. So, what is the least common denominator? The least common denominator, LCD, is the least common multiple of the denominators, the bottoms, of two or more fractions. So if you know how to find the least common multiple, you will know how to find the least common denominator. So let's see how this works. Okay, so we're going to find the least common denominator of 1/12, -3/16, and 5/18. So in order to find the least common denominator of these three fractions, I need to find the least common multiple of their denominators. Now, the least common multiple, if you remember, is the smallest number that can be divided by these three numbers evenly. In order to find that, what we can do is use prime factorization. So I'm going to factor 12, I'm going to factor 16, and I'm also going to factor 18. So 12 I know is divisible by 2, which is a prime number. That leaves me with 6, and then 6 is 2 times 3, which are both prime numbers. Then 16, and now I can divide that by 2 and get 8. I can divide 8 by 2 and get 4, and then I can divide both of these by 2, and they're all prime numbers. And then 18 I can divide by 2 and end up with 9, and then 9 is just 3 times 3. So next what I need to do is I need to figure out the most number of times each factor appears. So in 12, the 2 appears twice. In 16, it appears 4 times. In 18, it appears once. So I'm going to use it 4 times because 16 has it 4 times. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Then the 3 appears once here and it appears twice here. So I'm going to use it twice. So times 3 times 3. So 2 times itself 4 times right here is 16. And then 3 times 3 is 9. And then 16 times 9, 6 times 9 is 54. And 1 times 9 is 9, plus 5 is 14. So my least common multiple of these three denominators is 144, which means that my least common denominator is 144. Now, you can also find the least common denominator of fractions that have variables in them. So variables are letters that we use in math. It's a letter that stands for a number that we don't know. So here you have b in every denominator. So again, I can use my prime factorization. So 5b, so 5 is just 5. It's a prime number already, so you're not going to be able to break it down anymore. So 5b is the same thing as 5 times b. 15b, we can break that down. 15 is, I'm going to show it on the side here, in case you need to see this. 15 is 5 times 3, which are both prime numbers. So 15b is the same thing as 5 times 3 times b. And then 25b, so 25 is the same thing as 5 times 5, both are prime numbers. So 25b is the same as 5 times 5 times b. So now I'm going to use the same exact method that I used last time, and I'm going to see in which denominator do the factors appear the most, and that's what I'm going to use. So the 5 appears once here, but twice here. So I'm going to use 5 twice. Then 3 appears once here, none here, and none here. So I'm going to use 3 once. and then b appears once in every one of them, so I'm just going to use b once. And then I'm just going to multiply them out. I have 5 times 5, which is 25, times 3 times b. 25 times 3, think 3/4, that's 75 cents. And then times b is b. All right, let's try this next one. We're going to try renaming fractions using the least common denominator. So renaming fractions is going to be useful to us when we're comparing fractions and also when we're adding and subtracting fractions later. So in order to rename them, first I need to get my least common denominator. So I have a 3 here, a 4 here, and a 5 here. So 3 is a prime number, 5 is a prime number. 4 is the same thing as 2 times 2. So I'm going to do 3 times 2 times 2 times 5, or basically just multiplying all of them by themselves, because these two are prime and this is just 2 times 2 is 4. So 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 times 5 is 60. So my least common denominator is 60. So here's what I'm going to do, and I want you to do it exactly like this so you don't mess up. I'm going to rewrite these fractions the same exact way that they appear. So you see how I'm making negative, and then I'm going to put my fraction here, negative, going to put my fraction here, negative, and put my fraction here. And now on the bottom of every fraction, I'm going to write my least common denominator, which is 60. And then I have to ask myself, 3 times what is 60? So 3 times 20 is 60. So if I did it to the bottom, so 3 times 20, I did it to the bottom to get a 60. I need to do it to the top also. I need to multiply by the same number. So 2 times 20 is 40. So that becomes my new top. Then 4 times what is 60? 4 times 15 is 60. So I need to multiply 3 by 15 also. 3 times 15 is 45, and that becomes my new top. And then 5 times what will give me 60? So 5 times 12 gave me 60. So I need to do 4 times 12, which will give me 48, and that's my new top. So now I have my new fractions. I've renamed them using the least common denominator, which is 60, and they became negative 40 over 60, negative 45 over 60, negative 48 over 60. And notice that since all 3 of my original fractions were negative, all 3 of my new fractions are also negative. So I'd like you to rename these using the least common denominator. Do the best you can, and we're going to come back and check them in a moment. So let's give this one a try. So first I need to get my least common multiple of the bottoms. So my least common denominator. So first I'm going to factor them. So I'm going to factor 16. I'm going to factor 4, and I'm going to factor 8. So here we go. So 16 is 4 times 4. Each one of them is 2 times 2. They are all prime numbers. 4 is just 2 times 2. And 8 is 4 times 2. And then 2 times 2. So I'm going to see which numbers use them the most. So all of these factors are 2's, and 16 has the most. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. So my least common denominator is 16. So you also could have just looked at it and said, okay, well, 4 goes into 16 and 8 goes into 16. So 16 is going to be my least common denominator. Now, don't just stop there, because you have some letters to deal with. 16 has an A, 4 has an AB, and 8 has an A. So which number uses A the most? So 16 uses A once, 4 uses A once, and 8 uses B doesn't use A at all. So I'm going to use A once because it appears once in both of these. And then 16 doesn't have a B, 4 has a B, and 8 has a B, and they both have 1. So since the most number B occurs is 1s, I'm going to use 1B, and that's it. So now I'm going to rewrite my fraction. So I have my first one is a positive, my second one is a negative, my third one is a positive. And I'm going to write this as my new denominator. So I have 16AB on the bottom on every one of them. So now, how do I get from 16 to 16? Well, I'll just multiply it by 1. So 7 times 1 is 7. But don't forget about your letters. How do I get from AB, from just A to AB? I need to multiply it by B. So I need to multiply this by 1 and then also by B. So this will be 7B. This one, how do I go from 4 to 16? Well, in order to go from 4 to 16, I have to multiply by 4. And AB, how do you go from AB to AB? I just multiplied by 1. So you see 16 already has an AB there. So 5 times 4 times 1 is 20. That's all you have to write on the top there. And then, how do I go from 8 to 16? I multiply by 2. And then, how do I go from only having B to having AB? Well, I have to multiply it by A. So 3 times 2 is 6, and then times A is going to be 6A. So these are my fractions renamed with the common denominator. And again, don't let letters confuse you. They're actually a little bit easier to work with than numbers because you don't actually have to do any real math. You just, write the letter right next to it. And remember, a letter is a number you don't know. So just treat it like another number. If you get confused on any of this, watch it over again and then ask me questions tomorrow morning.